Alright guys, welcome back to the show. We have our first entrance straight from the slums of St. Catharines. Brad.
It's good to be here, even though the title of the show is a little bit of a lie because we're not technically live because we're just too real to everyone out there. And just to give you like an idea of the kind of stuff that I'll be doing, we're gonna do once the season starts, we're gonna be doing some more segments type thing. And,
It's like weekly stuff.
yeah. So I'll have a douchebag of the week segment where I kind of look at people who aren't really impressing me. Not only in like the game, like it's going to be the entire game of hockey, so it's not just subject to players. And then I'm also going to be looking at I'll have like a goalie week segment where I discuss good and bad goaltenders. Anyways, I'll swing it back to Paul and he'll tell you what we're going to talk about today.
That goalie thing's kind of right up his alley because he's played goalie in the past, and every time we play street hockey, he's sort of like designated goalie.
Yeah. I don't have much of a life.
It's like a fat kid.
Yeah, it's because I was the worst skater, so they just threw me in.
Alright, so this show we're going to talk about the signings in the off-season, who made the best moves and who made the worst moves. Not only signings, trades as well. So who got the most improved and who sort of didn't improve at all and who got worse. So, the first team is Philadelphia. They added two guys right off the start. They got two guys from Nashville. Do they do that? They do offer sheets or?
No. It was more of it was like a fire. It was when Nashville started to do their fire sale, and they got Tiemann and Hartnell out of it, and they signed them to contracts basically right away. So I'm pretty sure they had contracts in place before they acquired them.
Yeah.
It's usually the way it rolls.
And then on top of that, they added.
Got Lupul and Smith in that Pickenen deal.
Yeah.
Lupul had a rough year in Edmonton last year. I think he can rebound, maybe playing with some better players.
Yeah.
Although playing with Hemsky is pretty good. So.
Yeah. That's true. I remember like right when Edmonton got Lupul, they were sort of pegging him as a 30-goal scorer, someone that's going to carry the offense for him. He didn't really do it.
And Hartnell's like a perfect Philly guy. He's dirty. Yeah. He'll get in the corners.
Yeah,
he'll score the garbage goals. But definitely the most important acquisition for them is Briere because he's playing with fellow French Canadian Gagne, and they're expected to really light it up for them. So
definitely.
I would have some guarded optimism against them going too far because although Biron is the best goalie they've had in ages, I'm still not completely sold on him playing a lot in the playoffs. I still think Niedermacher is going to be number one at some point. I just think it'll probably be like a 50-30 game split. Biron playing 50 games and Niedermacher playing 30 this year.
Yeah, and you got to think Baron's conditioning sort of worn down from being back up in Buffalo playing like how many games did he play? Like 25 last year.
Yeah, and I find Biron. I've seen a lot of him being a Leaf fan, and so have you being a Sens fan. And I find he has too many games where he's just not a factor. Like he plays really poor. He'll let in like 3 goals on 24 shots or something like that, and that's just not good enough. Like he's a good goalie, but he doesn't stand out to me as a great goalie. I don't think he's capable of being a great goalie.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just thinking about him getting his ass kicked by Emery.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. And,
right.
So we can move on to New York.
Yeah.
Okay, the Rangers really just made 2 acquisitions, but they were probably the 2 biggest fish.
Yeah, biggest guys in the free agent pool, for sure.
Questionable contracts, to be sure, especially Gomez. We'll get into that a little later. But definitely, like, getting 2 passers like Drury and Gomez only helps players like Pruka, who had a bad year last year, Shanahan, who already had a great year, but he'll play even better with like a designated playmaker, and Yager, who probably needs to shoot a little bit more because he's always been kind of, Nylander's gone, Stracker's still there, but Yager's probably going to play with Drury or Gomez, is probably going to be expected to shoot a little bit more, maybe try and regain his 50-goal form. Yeah. Maybe that's too much to ask at his age, but he's definitely going to score 40 this year.
Yeah, they're going to have 2 lines that are capable of being first lines for a lot of teams. They have, I'd say like their first line would probably be something like Straka, Drury, and Yager, and then the second line probably Shanahan, Gomez, and Pruka.
Yeah,
Pretty solid.
and Pruka didn't. The thing that hurt Pruka last year, I think, is that he didn't get enough power play time because bringing in Shanahan basically soaked up all of his power play minutes from the previous year, and he scored 30-something goals.
Yeah.
And I just think Pruka needs to get some more sugar time on the PP if he wants to regain his form. And maybe, I think New York actually employed a 4-forward power play unit last year, but they'll probably do it again this year. Maybe with Drury playing the point, just because he's a pretty good defensive player as opposed to Gomez, who's, although he played in New Jersey's defensive system, he's not a very good defensive forward. Even though his plus-minus numbers are pretty high, that's what happens when you play for Martin Brodeur.
That's true.
And
I guess
we're going to the West.
Yeah, the next team, probably the most improved in my opinion. I don't know about you, but the LA Kings. They added a great number of guys, and like their defense is looking like one of the best in the league. Maybe they added Ladislav Nagy, Michael Handzus, Kyle Calder, and Patrick O'Sullivan's probably coming up this year. So their forward group's really well rounded too. I mean, they added pretty much a solid line of offense, and they've got guys coming up as well.
Yeah. The only, I wouldn't say they're the best defense in the league. Maybe 1 through 6 there, like they have the most depth.
Yeah.
I still think Anaheim, even though he lost Niedermayer, which is unbelievable, I still think they do have the best defense, just because Beauchevin is better than anyone LA has on defense, probably.
Yeah.
And that's not even their best defenseman. He's their number 3.
That's
I just
true.
think because, but we're not really talking about Anaheim's. But yeah, I think getting Handzus was big for them because it gives them a big forward up the middle who can kind of play like that gritty game, and let Frolov, who's not quite as, like, he's big but he doesn't play big, kind of let him freelance a bit and use his creativity. Frolov's definitely one of the most talented players in the league.
Yeah,
And I think getting quantity over quality in this case was actually good because the quantity they did get was still quality in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Nagy had a bad year last year and Handzus had a brutal injury, I still think getting both of them was big for that team because it gives them some much needed depth to take the pressure off the Kopitars and the Camillaris and the Frolovs.
Absolutely. So they added some guys on defense as well. Tom Pricing, which I think was an incredible signing, only $2.75 million for a guy who was I think top 3 in plus minus this year. They added Brad Stewart, and Jack Johnson might be coming up this year in place of Yaroslav Modry.
It was a horrible deal by Carolina looking back on it. And even at the time, I think everyone knew it was a bad deal, but Carolina needed a defenseman who could play now, I guess. Jack Johnson didn't want to play in the NHL right off the bat. He wanted to go back to college. I think LA's, if they can somehow, they easily have the worst goaltending in the league.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's that much of a question.
Between them and T-Bay, for sure. They
need to get either if Toronto is willing to trade Raycroft mid-season, or if Ottawa decide if they want to take the cap hit and take Gerber, they need, even if they get like an average goaltender like those two, it would help them a lot because they're going to score a lot of goals and their defense is pretty good, but
their goaltending was crap last year, and now they've lost Matthew Guerin to Edmonton.
Yeah, and Guerin, I don't quite know why they let Guerin go. I always thought he's a little underrated personally. I think he's going to play pretty good in Edmonton, but that's how
why don't we
he crumbles.
Why don't we cut this off here? It might be a bit too long. We'll make a different one 2 seconds later.